With NHRA's return this weekend to Thunder Valley, it marks the first time that an NHRA event has been hosted at a NASCAR shared facility since the passing of Kyle Busch just a couple of weeks ago. This is a really somber time to get to be coming back to this track. I love coming here every single year, but this one has obviously a lot more significance because this isn't just any other racetrack that we're coming back to. It just so happens to be the track that Kyle Busch pretty much dominated throughout the course of his career. It was his best performing racetrack by far. I was surprised to learn today, thanks to the staff at Bristol Motor Speedway for showing me a graphic they did. It turns out Kyle Busch listed this track, specifically the asphalt, of course, was his favorite track that he got to race on. And surprise, surprise, I mean, why not? I say he dominated this track, and it's surprising to think of how. He won here 9 times in the Cup Series. He won here 9 times in the Nationwide Series, or the O'Reilly National Series, the best way to put it. 5 times in the Truck Series. He won here a total of 23 times. 28% of the races that he raced here, he won. I believe a total start of around 82. It's incredible to think of what he was able to do here. For a brief time, it seemed every single time we came here, whether it was a spring race, whether it was the fall race, it wasn't a question of if he was going to win, it was going to be by how much. And even if he didn't win, you knew he was going to be in the highlight reel for some reason or another. We think of the name Rowdy, and to be honest, I think this track is perfectly what personified that nickname. Everything he did here, the moments you think of throughout his career, half of them have came at this place, whether it was him wrecking Brad Keselowski in a nationwide race, him getting into a fight with Carl Edwards. You think, honestly, the rivalry with Brad Keselowski, which became one of the story-marked chapters of his career, and probably, without a doubt, the most important rivalry of his career, started at this racetrack back in the Nationwide Series when he got into that incident with Brad Keselowski. And then the next night during driver intros, Kyle Busch did his driver intros. Brad came out later and called him an ass in the middle of driver intros, and that started one of the most significant rivalries of his career. And on that same night, he made history, sweeping this event for the first time when he won the Truck Series, the Nationwide Series, and the Cup Series in the same weekend. It was just incredible to think of what he was able to accomplish here, especially considering he did not just do that once. He did it twice a couple years later in 2017. He won here in about every single generation of car that he ever driven in his career. He won here in a truck. He won here in a Gen 4 in the Nationwide Series. He won here the first time in a COT car, another famous Kyle Busch moment. He won the first ever COT Cup Series race, came into this victory lane, got out of the race car and said, "I can't stand to drive these things. They suck. They're terrible." The first ever time anyone ever won in the Cup Series race, and that was the introduction that fans got to it after the race. It's just incredible to be standing in victory lane, especially considering the fact that, like I said, he dominated this place so often, and to be standing here at a place that he practically owned. He could have built a house on this place. He could have left a trailer here with how much he visited this place. And it's just weird to think that the next time we come here, he's not going to be here. It's just a really odd feeling. And I know I'm not the only one that feels that way. There are a ton of drivers who had the opportunity to rub shoulders with Kyle Busch, to encounter him. Another thing I was surprised by is the fact that he was a lot more of a drag racing fan than I think anyone would have given him credit for. They showed this thing that NASCAR started doing, and they mentioned in the past, where you get points for doing media availabilities, and you can get prize money for that. And Bristol Motor Speedway had either made or received this graphic from NASCAR that listed his interests and his hobbies. And when it showed the sporting interests that he had, it showed a list of drivers. It was Lewis Hamilton, Joseph Newgarden, and then it went to Antron Brown, J.R. Todd, and John Force. And it's just really weird to think that he was that much of a drag racing fan. And with that fact, I felt it was appropriate, coming back to this place, that we paid honor to one of the greatest drivers in the history of Bristol Motor Speedway, because, again, I really think of this place as probably the most important track that Kyle Busch ever driven at. You think about what he did here, and honestly, I think he was much as important to Bristol as Bristol was to him. You think of what Dale Earnhardt did in the 90s and the iconic moments that he had here, and how the Bristol crowd that surrounded this place will let him know what they felt. After his passing, it was kind of a question of who might take that torch. Well, Kyle Busch really picked it up and ran with it. he came out here for a lot of his iconic moments, and a lot of those moments, the Bristol crowd gave it right back to him, and he really kind of carried the torch for this place and kept that modern image of that marquee feeling every time they came back here, because as much as he was rowdy, the rowdy Tennessee fans gave it right back to him. You think of, again, the moment in 2010 where he went out there in his cocky attitude and called out the crowd saying, "You're so loving," for booing him. And then Brad Keselowski came out and did his thing. And then a couple years later, and I believe it was 2019, he came out for driver intros and said an incredibly famous quote, in my opinion, when he said, "If you love us, you're rowdy, let me hear you go boo." And the entire crowd just let him have it, because I don't think they heard what he said. So because of the fact that we came back to this track of all places, because of the fact that this is the first time we come back to a NASCAR shared facility, I felt it was only right that we paid tribute to one of the most iconic drivers in the history of NASCAR, the most winningest driver in the history of NASCAR, and the winningest driver in the history of Bristol Motor Speedway. And with that, talk to a couple of drivers that had an opportunity to know Kyle Busch.
Yeah, I know a lot of fans, you know, they see somebody on TV and you form an opinion on somebody. We're all bad about doing that, but until you actually meet someone in person and spend time around them, it's just, you get to see who they really are. And like when, you know, we did the Rowdy deal with Kyle, we had him out here and warmed up the car. You know, he was pumped about that. Then, like I said, just trading text messages with him, like just a genuine die-hard racer, man. Like, how could you not like the guy? So, yeah, kind of the same way with Tony. Like, he eats, sleeps, and breathes racing, and we're lucky to have him over here in NHRA now racing with us. And yeah, I think that you know, if Rowdy would have, you know, ever stepped into a car over here in NHRA, like, he would have had success just like Tony is.
I'll never forget I think his first Prelude. We got put in a truck together after driver intro to go around and wave to the fans, and people were coming up to the fence and yelling obscenities at him, and it was just me and him in the truck, and we're over the cab and people are yelling, "F you, Kyle Busch," and they're throwing stuff at us, like beer can, like full beer cans, and screaming, and little kids are running up with their moms and dads and screaming, "I hate you, Kyle Busch." And this happened all the way around the track, and I was like, oh my God. I go, what does that feel like to hate you that much? He goes, they don't understand. It just inspires me to kick whatever driver they love. It just gives me fuel to fire.
Yeah, this was just, I mean, immediately from the get-go, this was one of those tracks that suited his driving style, and he was very, very successful at. So I think once he got his first win here and knew what it took to win here, he just kept that momentum and stayed on a roll. And every time he came here, you knew he was going to be a factor in the equation. So it was fun as his teammate to be here, part of that. But then when he's not your teammate anymore, you're like, damn it, I got to race this guy here. So he just, you know, the different guys. Jimmy Johnson had tracks that were special to him, and you know, this place was definitely special to Kyle for sure.
He would be flipping out if he saw the reaction of people when he passed. He made that kind of an emotional impact on people. It's too bad he couldn't have seen that.